Hey, disc golfers, welcome back to Caddy Chat with Jake and Josh, episode 17. We're already there.
Nice.
I'm your host, Jacob Arvidsson, joined as always by Josh Wood. We're excited to have you back with us for another week. Josh, what do we got planned for the show today?
Today we're going to do a recap of the Las Vegas Challenge, as well as a local tournament that we had this weekend. And then we'll look ahead to next week at the Memorial. And our main segment today is going to be we're going to continue our Nightmare 18 with back nine. And I think I'm losing my voice.
Yes,
so that's pretty sweet.
So I'll start talking. You can get a drink or clear your throat or whatever you need to do. All right. So if you guys haven't done it yet, go check out Leppy Duels on the channel here. It's been going very well. We've been having a really good time with it. And we've got another star-studded cast coming up this week. So stay tuned for that. That'll drop this weekend. Go back and watch the other episodes if you haven't yet, so you can get up to date on who to pay attention to when they show up on the panel.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. So LVC was this weekend.
Yes.
And Calvin Heimberg took down MPO.
He did. He played really well. He was playing well in the wind, and that's important.
Yep. And then on the FPO side, Katrina Allen really won it after 3 rounds and just coasted to a win.
But there were a lot of fun fights. A lot of fun fights in 2nd through 5th or 6th place.
Yeah. So let's touch on our picks for a second.
Sure.
So you came into the week with a 20-something point lead on me.
I did.
And I needed to make up some ground, although it's a long season.
And I was feeling bad because we lost Ricky early.
We did. Yep.
He dropped out before it even started. And then Simon, who I thought was playing really well the first round.
Because he was.
In his rhythm.
Yeah, he was playing well.
And then he fell off and ended up in, was it 27th or something?
Yeah, he dropped significantly.
He dropped significantly, and I was panicking, thinking, I'm going to lose this thing. This is going horribly for me. Eagle and Paul didn't do great. Top 10, but not fantastic.
But Josh had forgotten that I picked Chris Clemens.
That's right.
And Chris Clemens did not make the cut. So
what place did he finish in?
69th.
69th. And then, but you had your wild card, Gavin Rathbun.
Also struggled.
Yeah. He was right there by Simon. So they kind of canceled each other out. So that worked out really well for us.
Worked out well for you.
For me, mostly, but
I did pick the winner. So
you did.
There's that. So I'll pat myself on the back for that.
Yeah.
On the FPO side, I took a gamble with Evelina, and it did not pay off. She struggled severely on the putting green. Although Henna, her Finnish compatriot, played very well. And was battling the whole tournament. But again, Katrina Allen. Someone picked Katrina Allen, so I went 2 for 2 on the winners.
You did.
I feel like I should get a small bonus for that.
Yeah, you do get a very small bonus for that.
Not big enough.
Those 60s are painful, man. Where did Evelina actually finish?
Well, Evelina drops off for me because she's since none of the women dropped, so I get to drop her.
Why?
Because we had 4. We take top 3.
Oh, did we have 4? All right, fine.
So I dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, you did.
What did she finish in?
Oh, I just stopped looking.
33rd.
Yep. 33rd place. That's
not close to the top.
Better than Chris Clemens.
Did not make the cut. Yes, better than Chris Clemens, but percentage-wise, was it better than Chris Clemens? I don't know.
Not.
Who knows? Anyway, Josh extended his lead.
It was about the same.
Josh extended his
lead.
I did
extend my lead.
That's about all you guys care about because I'm going the wrong direction.
A couple of shout-outs, right? I mean, again, there was a lot of good golf being played. Gannon was playing well for a couple of rounds. Kyle Klein coming back in round 4 from 3rd or 4th card to end up 4th place, tied for 4th place.
Yeah, and shot a wicked hot final round.
Yeah. 51.
All the way to the almost cracked the podium.
Yeah.
1 stroke away from the podium.
Yeah, so great run by him at the end there. A couple other guys you were mentioning. Clint Calvin.
Yeah.
Had a great showing.
Switched over to Innova this year and he's not as highly rated as a big chunk of the field. And he's still a great player, but
He is, yeah. 1,006.
But yeah, he's not, comparatively speaking, close to Kyle Klein or Drew Gibson or Kevin Jones, anyone up there in the top 5.
But
And he finished 17th with some really good golf over the weekend. And to do it with a brand new bag that's complimentary and worth talking about. The other one, young gunner Zach Arlinghouse.
Oh yeah, ambidextrous.
Takes 7th place.
Yeah.
We know he's good. We know he can crush, but he's still a kid. And to take a top 10 finish from the first Pro Tour event of the year is nothing to sneeze at. So,
for sure,
he is definitely worth shouting out.
And again, I mean, he's a 1,008 rated player who got 7th place at the first tour event, averaging 1,042 rated golf.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
And then the final thing we wanted to talk about a little bit farther down the leaderboard was Nico Lacastro.
Yeah, speaking of new sponsors.
Yeah.
Nico comes out with a great showing.
Yes.
And not only a new sponsor, but he hasn't been able to play for 6 months. This was his first event back, and he shot 30 strokes above his rating. Or no, I'm sorry. It was 9 strokes above his rating. It was
10:30-ish.
Yeah, 10:30 to 10:40 was the difference between his rating and his round. So,
but I mean,
great showing.
To not be in that competitive field for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then to come out and do that, it just shows you what kind of a player he is. Brand new bag as well, like you said. He's a really good player, and he's going to be up on the top of leaderboards this year.
Yeah.
So get used to seeing his name, whether you like him or not. He's going to be there.
Yep.
And it'll be interesting when he finally breaks into the limelight here, what I would consider to be relatively soon, and gets on coverage onto a lead card or a chase card where we're watching Nico Lacastro, and all the eyes are going to be on him. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah. I think the other one that you were talking about was Matt Bell. He had a hot round for that final round and shot 12 under on a bomber course.
Yeah.
And he's not known as being one of the big guns, but that was a 1,082 rated round.
That's a good point.
For the final round to pull himself up to
top 10.
8th place. Yeah, a tie for 8th. So phenomenal. 1,082 rated golf on that course in those conditions.
And that course is not built for him. So
right.
Yeah.
Well done.
Really respectable. All right, we'll jump on over to our local tournament from this past weekend, the Kent Lake Classic.
Yeah.
2-day event. We'll split between divisions, so 1-day event for each division, but split up between MPO and MA1 second day, and the rest of the divisions the first day.
Okay, yeah.
But we had a couple of people we wanted to shout out. Not a giant field for some of these divisions, but some strong performances nonetheless. Manuel Spicer in MP40 killed everybody.
He did, with some great golf too. Yeah.
Shot 14 down
10
on the day.
Strokes ahead of anybody else on the field.
Yeah.
And literally everybody else on the field.
Very respectable.
Yeah. Yeah, well done for him. And then AM40, Sean Baird, shot some great golf as well, averaged 45 points above his rating.
He was in a battle there with Troy Meadows.
Yeah.
And edged him out by one stroke at the end.
Yep.
Then in AM2, shooting way above his rating, was Dexter Hullock.
Good old Dexter.
That 15 down on the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, well above his rating.
His 2 rounds were 990 and 970 rated. And he's a 910 rated, something like that, 912.
So Dexter was balling. Good stuff, Dexter.
Yeah.
Any other shout-outs you want to go? We had the battle of the Chris's in AM3. We can't forget that. They went to a playoff.
Tied at 9, go to a playoff. Yep. Did they show you hole scores for those? For the playoff holes?
Yes. No, not for the playoff holes.
Bummer. So we don't know how it went, but we know that Chris won.
Chris won the battle of the Chris's.
Yeah. He was the superior Chris that day.
Chris Pekin. That's how I'm going to guess we say it. If I butchered it, I'm sorry, Chris.
Either way, great round.
Good stuff from both Chris's.
Yep. Yeah, and then on the other side, the AM won. Aiden Hosler etched it out. I think he was a couple strokes ahead of everybody else.
And he shot 10-20 that final round, which was the third hottest round on the day, a day which included the MPO field.
Yeah, he was only in that final round, he was only one stroke behind the winner, Nick Gill, in the MPO.
And his overall score, Aiden's overall score for the tournament would have placed him, what, fifth?
Yeah, 5th place or 8th place in
MPO.
MPO.
So
yeah, 5th.
He would have
turned. A great day of golf for that kid.
He would have turned home with $150 if you had played MPO.
Yeah, man, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Good stuff though, Aiden.
Yeah, great round.
And then you said, Nick Gill beat out Luke Taylor and Skylar Stoker for first place there. So another good win notched in Nick Gill's
belt.
It
was, Nick and Luke went to a playoff as well. They were tied at 15.
And I wish I knew how that went down.
Yeah, I'll bet you it was
exciting. We know Nick won.
Yeah.
And I saw Nick you post about it, but I kind of wish we knew, it did go 1, 2, 3 holes. Comment below, we'd love to know.
Yeah.
Somebody watching this knows what happened.
And when there's a big tournament like this going on and there's a playoff, you can always reach out to us before we record. Just call us while you're on the course.
Also true.
Give us a play-by-play.
Yeah. Live video. Patch us in.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the Kent Lake Classic. A little local Michigan tournament. We're happy to shout it out. Brings us to pick time. Big tournament coming up this weekend. There's a couple of them, but the one we're going to pick on had the most star-studded field and a former very, very high-level event, former tour event. Now it's been now just an A tier, but still a popular tournament, the Memorial.
Yes, the Memorial. It's an exciting one. Scottsdale, Arizona.
And we're just going to pick MPO for this weekend since it's not a tour stop.
Okay. Sounds good.
And you want me to go first or you want to go first?
No, I want you to go first this week.
All right. Otherwise, Josh will claim I stole his picks.
Yep, like you always do.
Not true. I did not steal Chris Clemens. But if you would like him, you can have him back.
No, he'll recover.
All right, so Gannonbur's the top-rated guy in the field here at the Memorial this weekend. Still have a hard time picking him. Don't think his head is completely there. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
He's had no disrespect
stuff going on.
Yeah, no disrespect there, but I don't think he is going to win this event.
All right.
Andrew Marweed just won at Vista del Camino. That's half the tournament. And I think he's going to place, but he's not going to win.
Okay.
Anthony Barella is going to win this event.
All right.
I don't think... Did you have a bold prediction this year that AB was going to win a tour stop?
Yeah.
I don't think AB is going to win a tour stop, but I do think he's going to win a couple of smaller scale events. And this is going to be one of them.
I think we can count this one as a tour event if he wins it.
No. We cannot. But AB is going to win. We saw what he can do over 3 rounds this past weekend at Las Vegas Challenge. And Memorial is not 4 rounds. So good on you, AB. You're going to win this event.
And it's local to him, right? He's from Arizona.
Yeah. He's got to be more comfortable there, too.
Yeah.
That's got to have something to do with it.
Sure.
So AB is going to win. Andy Marweed is going to take second place.
Nice.
And I have a hard time picking against Drew Gibson when it's just a Bomber Heiser fest out there.
Yeah.
So Drew Gibson's going to take third. And then my wild card fourth, Connor Rock.
Connor Rock, I like it.
Local to Arizona. He's been playing very well. He plays 14th, kind of out of nowhere at LVC. We saw him at a couple of the warm-up A tiers playing very well. He's going to place
all right.
4th.
I like it.
What do you got for me, Josh?
A lot of the same, to be honest.
Yeah, 3 the same.
I'm struggling. Well, those aren't in stone. That's just my thinking page.
Okay. It's not official until he says it.
It's not until I say it out loud. Oh, but yeah, it's really hard not. Okay.
You are also a big Isaac Robinson fan.
I know. I really struggle. There's actually 4 other guys I really want to pick this week. But I think you're right about AB. I'm picking him to win.
Okay.
For all the same reasons you mentioned.
It's a good pick.
Yeah, I think it's a solid pick. I think Andrew Marweed's going to get second place. Did you pick him second as well?
I did.
Yeah. But unlike you, I have faith in Gannon Burr,
Okay.
and I think he's going to get third place this week.
Okay.
At least, even if I'm wrong about the order, I think that's going to be our top 3, and top 4 is going to be Drew Gibson.
All right. So you're going top heavy.
I'm going a little top heavy with the Bombers and some young guys, but
Hey, you're up by like 100 points at this point. So
I know. What do I got to lose?
as long as they place anywhere in the top 10, you're in
I'm
good.
pretty safe.
You're in a good spot. You need 2 of them to either drop out of the tournament
safe.
or.
But just some
blow
honorable
up.
mentions. I'm going to keep my eye on Vino. He's
Yes.
a great golfer,
Yep.
and he ended the year last year very strong. Was playing clean golf and playing really well and having a good time while he did it. I really wanted to pick Yuli. Again, in Arizona, there's not a stacked field.
Yeah.
There's a few good players, but it's not stacked. I really wanted to pick my guy Cupcake again.
Yes.
Curtis is out
Yes.
there. Noah Meinsma's out there. I really want him to do well.
You love Noah Mines.
I know I do. And Isaac Robinson. Yeah, I can't wait to watch it.
Josh had
I
some
hope
tough
there's
decisions.
coverage. Please let there be coverage.
There will be.
Coverage has been ruined for me the last 2 years. It's time to redeem it. We'll talk about that later, though.
All right. No, let's talk about that now.
Is that where we're at?
Yeah, this past weekend was the opening of the tour. We got to see the Disc Golf Network for the first time. We got to see Jomez rolled out for the first time. They always try and shake things up slightly every year
Yeah.
with new intro music and whatnot.
Yep.
This year they've got the FPO coverage. What were your thoughts on the new media we saw?
I have some thoughts. So I didn't watch any of the DGN stuff.
Mhm.
And for me, that's basically just because it's too complicated in my home entertainment system
Okay.
to try to get DGN onto my TV.
Okay.
It shouldn't be, I know. And it's not because I'm old. It's just because I'm lazy. I don't have the Chromecast hooked up right now. But I prefer post-produced
You're a big
coverage
post-produced
anyway.
guy.
I'm a huge post-produced guy. And I'll give some caveats in a minute in regard to all of my opinions. But one thing I like that they did the FPO. I usually, in the morning, that's always the first thing that's available, or the night before.
Yep.
So that's when I like to watch that. What I noticed was when they took over the FPO, it seems like it was about 8 hours later before it was available than it was last year with GK.
You're talking
as
MPO
opposed to-
or FPO?
No, the FPO.
Okay.
The FPO was out much later than it was last year. And their next day MPO coverage was out quite a bit later in the day. It used to be I could wake up in the morning and Jomez had, at least sometime in the first couple hours of my day, they had round 1 ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
This time it was, what was it, 6 o'clock in the afternoon before?
Yeah, it
out?
was the final round had well and teed off on Disc Golf Network before Jomez was up.
Had the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And
So I did not enjoy that.
It's not normal from them. FPO was up at midnight, our
Okay,
time.
I just went to bed too early. It seems like last year it was out by like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
But I could be wrong about that.
Any other thoughts before I say anything?
Yeah, but you can go
Okay.
first.
I thought it was interesting. They made a big deal on day one about Jomez. This is about same day coverage for
Yep.
FPO. Made a big deal about it,
Big deal.
and they did. I think for 3 of the 4 rounds, get it out the front
Before
9
midnight.
before midnight on the West Coast.
On the West
However,
Coast.
it was not. I mean, yes, they're 3 hours behind us in Michigan, so I get it. I'll give you some leeway there. But
A little bit.
if you get it out at 11 p.m. on the West Coast, it makes no difference to 95% of human beings because they're going to bed. So you're better off just releasing it at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a difference at that point. And yeah, I do think it was great for FPO because it, I think, double, tripled, or quadrupled the views depending on the round that you watched. from what they averaged with GK Pro last year. So that's fantastic for FPO, fantastic for the sport.
Very good.
On the other hand, MPO is their calling card. And it's what they've hung their hat on and what the majority of people are going there to watch. And when that is coming in significantly later than it has, people are institutionalized to expect it at a certain time.
Well, not to mention it's already hard enough to avoid spoilers.
Yeah.
The longer you wait to put that out, the longer we have to try to avoid social media.
And my big thing in the past has always been I'll watch Jomez up to the final day and then watch the final round, just because I'm busy doing other stuff. I'm happy to watch live disc golf the final round. The first couple rounds are, people are kind of moving in and out and it's whatever. So I prefer Jomez in those situations, but I want to watch the intense things develop live.
Yeah. That's fair.
And when the post-produced coverage for round 3 isn't released until after the final round even starts, it's hard to do.
Yep.
So those are my negative thoughts on Jomez, but I thought their intro video, their hype video with the poker chips and the Jomez cards was cool.
That was fun.
I'm sure they had a lot of fun producing that. That was cool. As far as Disc Golf Network goes, it's the same product that we saw last year. Every year it's better, It's an average product for what they're putting out. I get that they have budgets and the equipment that they're working with is what it is. So it's a decent product for what they're working with. However, it's no better than last year. It's the same. So I do have a small issue with it being hyped up as, bigger and better. We've invested this, we've invested that. It's the same. It's average. So those are my thoughts on that.
All right.
What else did you have to add?
A lot of the graphics I did not appreciate, or I didn't enjoy. They're not for me.
From Jomez?
Yeah, from Jomez. The animation was fun as everybody was holding out, but I like the classic bar on the bottom where I can at any point look at the screen and see where everybody's at.
Okay.
I don't like it that the only time you saw everybody score at the same time on the screen was at the end of each hole when they're holding out, when the last guy holds out. So, but I mean, that's nitpicky of me. But again, to me, and I realize things are going to change. And I'm not one of those crotchety old men who doesn't like progress. But I feel like 2 years ago or 3 years ago was kind of the golden age of disc golf coverage.
Of post-production?
Of disc golf coverage. Okay. Because I prefer the polished, post-produced, everybody's seen it at the same time, but post-produced coverage. I enjoy it being knit together the way it is with the slow motion and the replays and everything they're able to do in post-production that you can't do on the fly as easily. If DGN invests a few $1 million, they could probably
with a bigger budget, yes, they could pull that off. Yep, I agree.
Replay action.
Yep.
But it was great the way it was. And, 2-3 years ago, you could guarantee from the beginning of February until November, there was a tournament to watch every weekend. Whereas I feel like now, DGN, and now they've got these exclusive contracts with Jomez for certain events that last year we got a lot less disc golf than we got 2 years ago.
It's a fair argument. Yeah.
So it's taking it away from us. The quality on some of these other channels isn't keeping up to replace it, which is tough. I don't know what to do about that. But again, I know live coverage is the future. I know it almost seems by design that everybody's pushing that way to where even, Jomez, I don't think is going to be Jomez next year. I think it's going to be a very different product and a very different thing that happens with disc golf coverage.
I think in a couple weeks we should take a whole episode to talk about that.
Okay.
So stay tuned for that.
And so all this to say, I'm not enjoying the change, but I know it's coming. I'm going to embrace it. I still love disc golf. So I'm not going to be that old guy that gets left behind and just cries about the good old days. But I just want to make it known that those were the good old days and they're gone. And now we're going to live coverage.
All right. Josh's soapbox, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. On to our discussion topic, the highlight of the episode today, the Nightmare 18 back nine.
Yeah.
And last week, I kind of went the route of hard holes that give me a hard time or are just difficult to succeed on and find your birdie. Josh went more of the route of poorly designed holes.
Well,
for the
and
most
and
part.
holes that I
And
don't
holes
like.
that you don't like.
Yeah.
This week we took the same approaches, kind of. I went more for the back nine. I went more poorly designed holes. And we'll find out what route you took.
Yeah, it's a mystery, even to me. No, I want to say this is really hard.
It's difficult, yeah.
For a couple of reasons. Number one, as I've mentioned way too many times already, I don't get out a lot. And so I have a very limited number of courses to pull from. So to put together an entire 18 of bad holes when I'm only pulling from 6 or 7 courses is really hard. There were a couple last week where I just thought, that specific hole number, there's not a hole around that I don't like. Of a hole 1 or a hole 7 or whatever, whatever hole that was. And I found myself that way again this week, where there were a couple of holes where I was like, there's really not a bad hole 16 that I've played. So it is hard. It's difficult. I did my best, but I think we need to do a more extensive version of this in the future with more time to do some research and really put together a solid Dream and Nightmare 18. And I think that Nightmare 18, and maybe at that point, should be what would be the one that is just going to be the hardest to score at.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, like what would be the hardest to shoot par at?
It would just be a nightmare to try to get to par.
Yep.
For anybody.
The Northwood Black of...
Yeah. Of wherever we decide to pick our parameters.
Correct.
It might be the whole country.
Regardless, you guys play along with us too. Throw your front nine.
Yes.
Front nine last week, but back nine this week. Toss yours in the comments below. We'd love to know your thoughts. You don't have to spend as much time doing research as we did. You can just toss in a couple of holes if you want.
You don't have to use nearly as many words as I do either.
Also true. All right, you want to go first? You want me to go first, Josh?
I'll go first again. Okay. So, hole 10. This one is personal.
Okay.
And it's breakers again.
Oh, boy.
I hate this hole. I'm getting better at it. And so it's one of those weird ones. I don't like the word tweener, but it's kind of a tweener.
Par-wise, you're talking?
Par-wise.
Yep.
It's a par 3, but it's one that you are not going to see birdied a high percentage.
Okay, yeah.
Even those people who can get it, it's maybe 10% of the time, 20% of the time.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
And you will see a lot of 4s and 5s and 6s on this hole from an average field. You're probably not going to get a 5 a whole lot on that hole, but I'm sure you've taken some 4s.
I don't play that course enough.
That's true. Fair enough. We won't talk about you. We'll talk about me.
But yes, I'm giving you a hard time. I'm giving you a hard time. I've taken 4s on this hole.
It can be a difficult par 3. But it's probably way too easy of a par 4.
Absolutely.
So it's weird. I don't like it. Usually I'm coming through that hole and I'm salty because I don't normally get great shots on that hole. I'm getting there though. I'm throwing my charger out the gap.
Is the design
that disc.
Is the design an issue for you, or is it just this hole beats me to smithereens every time I play it?
Yeah, no, it just beats me.
Okay.
I mean, it is a hard design, but I mean, you can't have every hole be an easy hole. But when you're looking down, it's what 370?
The length of the hole?
Yes.
Maybe longer. I think
maybe
it might
400?
be. It might be 390-ish. Yeah.
390-ish. But the first 300 feet is just trying to get through the clearing, and then there's this big patch of trees where there's 4 very skinny gaps that you have to try to get through to get to the next clearing.
Well, the first 225, 250 is open.
Wide open.
You're going to get that distance.
But then you got to hit one of those 4 gaps.
The next 80 feet
to get the next 80 feet out into the open.
Yep.
And hope you don't go too far into the path that's OB in front of the green. But yeah, it's a tough hole. It's a tough hole. And that is all.
Done. Hole 11.
Hole 11, I went with Brewer. Oh my God, that's right. This is double Mando down the hill.
Yes, double Mando is Brewer.
Yes. I'm picking that one. And there's a couple of reasons. Number one, it was really hard to find a hole 11
Okay.
in the courses I can pull from that is bad, or even that really gets me all that much. Most hole 11s are dinkers around here, right? I mean, Shore Acres.
Yeah.
That's Birdie Alley. Winnie, it's kind of Birdie Alley. 10, 11, 12.
Pawpaw's a big one. It's a par 4. But that made our dream 18.
Yeah, that's a
great
dream.
hole.
That's a great hole. Yeah. So anyway, I went with Brewer because it was the one that probably gives me the most trouble.
It's fair.
And I think we mentioned before when we were talking about it, it could be a fine hole without the Mandos.
Yeah.
I think the Mandos are unnecessary. It doesn't seem to be for safety. It's simply, well, maybe now it is with 14 the way it is. But even so, I don't think the Mando needs to be there. It'd be a perfectly fine hole without it. Still,
it's a difficulty thing is what it is.
So that's hole 11. Not a whole lot to say. 12, I'm picking Winnie. Again, it's on Birdie Alley. But this hole just beats me up. It's such an easy hole. And yet, probably 50% of the lately, it's been 80% of the time, I don't make it 100 feet down the fairway. I'm hitting the trees on the right.
I mean, it's a tight fairway.
It's kind of tight, but I'm making it look a lot tighter than it is.
Okay. I'm
mad at it right now. I'm mad at it right now, so I made my list.
All right.
I didn't have to think much about that one.
Hole 13.
13. I went back and forth. So I'm going to pick breakers. But I'm going to give a special shout out in a minute to another hole. But breakers, I feel, again, like I said about hole 8, I feel like they were just trying to figure out how to get from hole 12 to hole 14 without cutting down too many trees. Like, what's the simplest route? So it's just this giant horseshoe shape. Par 3.
It's a big crescent moon looking thing.
Yeah, almost a horseshoe. And
yeah, it's almost a full U. Yeah.
It's not super long, but it's just an almost impossible angle. Now, there have been times, especially in the winter, right now, or actually a few days ago, would have been the perfect time to do this, where you can put something out into the fairway on hyzer, let it hit, get a huge skip flare off the ice. Doing that before I've gotten within 40 feet, and I made the putt for 2. But it's a hole where you're probably going to par if you don't hit early. And just a kind of a silly gimmicky design. Personally, I would redesign this back area, 12, 13, coming back to 14. There's still a lot of usable land back there that could be turned into a couple of nicer holes. But that's just me. I do like breakers. I've mentioned that before. It's one of my favorite courses.
Yes, you have.
So,
all right,
no reason to take it personally.
Hole 14.
Hole 14, Garfield.
Why Garfield?
It's just a silly little hole that is unnecessary. It's one of those holes too. What is it, like 150 feet?
Maybe
130.
It might be shorter.
With these double Mandos, about 40 feet.
It might be slightly longer too. We don't actually.
Yeah,
it's short.
It's a tiny hole. They put these double Mandos here just to keep it interesting, or so they thought. But it's still not interesting.
But even the double Mando, to get through it, you have to throw a weird shot.
A little bit.
Like it's this weird little, if you're throwing righty backhand, it's this weird little touch, like putter shot with a bit of Annie. If you're throwing forehand, it's like a reach out, weird Annie flex thing.
Sure. You know what it would be a good hole for? We've been talking about this, me and some friends lately, putting together a disc golf putt course.
Yeah, that would fit.
Yeah, with gimmicky little
short and gimmicky
tire swing you got to get through. You know, just putt golf kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's what that hole is.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. You're totally right. All right, hole 15.
Shore Acres. I'm gonna just go ahead and say specifically black.
Okay.
Hole 15 black is one of my least favorite holes.
Because of the death bush?
Yeah, that's one of the 2 reasons that I don't like it. One of them is I can't reach it. And I don't like par 3s that I can't reach. That's not fun. It's also a turnover shot where you're turning it over toward out of bounds in order to get down there. And if you go far enough, then there's that giant death bush. It's some sort of a rose bush, I think. But the thorns are like that long and super sharp, like razors.
It might be able to kill you if you jumped on it.
It could kill you. You could kill yourself if you fell into it accidentally in the wrong way. It's a dangerous bush. And they did trim it last year.
But it's less than 5 feet from the pin when it's grown out?
Oh, yeah.
Now that it's trimmed, it's 10 feet from the pin?
No. 6, 7.
Okay. Less than 10 feet from the pin.
It's close.
It's
way too close. And it's dangerous.
It shouldn't be there. If somebody were to cut it down, nobody would cry.
So when you're approaching that basket, the miss is to the left.
Yeah, don't throw right. All right, hole 16.
Brewer coming out that gap. It shouldn't be a difficult hole either. It's a pretty tight gap to get out of, right? You've got
16 at Brewer.
16 at Brewer
Is up.
You're coming out of the woods.
Yeah, it's slight uphill.
Over, slightly uphill. The gap is probably 30 to 40 feet wide. Up there, like 100 feet off the tee pad. Maybe not that, maybe 20 feet.
The gap is tinier than that.
Cool. So it's even harder than I thought it was.
Yeah, the gap is smaller than what you're saying. Yeah.
And for some reason, to get through that gap and then get the distance, like I can never do both those things.
Mm-hmm. I get that.
So it's just a tough one. But again, there's a lot of great hole 16s around, so it was hard to pick a nightmare hole 16.
Yeah.
17, though, that wasn't hard. Flip City.
So you don't like this hole design-wise or play-wise?
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's personal. I've only played there once. It was for states. I was having an okay round. First time I'd ever played Flip City. I've never practiced there. It's the one and only time to this day I've ever played it. Get up to hole 17. I come up about 50 short. So I'm not stupid. I'm laying it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I laid it up. It hit the pole, stood up, rolled all the way down the hill to the barn. Through. I don't know how it could get through those trees. There's no way to get back up through those trees.
But it always does.
How did it get down through those trees?
It always makes its way through.
So I went from what should have been an easy layup par and finishing my round decently for somebody who's never played there before and never played states before either. That was my first states. To I think I took a 7 on that hole.
And for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, it's like 250 feet maybe. You throw straight uphill
onto a bunch of like rocks.
Yep. Right? And then it's a steep hill, and then it's steep around the backside. The pin is like halfway down this hill, slightly to the right. Meanwhile, up the hill and down the hill, you're throwing through this grove of pine trees.
Yeah.
And the fairway shape, it's really not an actual shot. It's like a weird angle release in the first place.
But man, if it catches edge.
But it's just completely pine needles. There's nothing in the way on the ground near the pin. So if it catches edge at all, which it does anytime you touch anything, rock or tree, it's gone.
She gone.
And it takes off forever.
And then there's just this prison of trees all the way down the hill.
And like you said, you roll through them on your way down, and then you have to throw an actual shot on the way up, and there's no way to get through the prison of trees. Yes, I agree. Bad hole. All right, 18.
I went with Winnie.
Rat's Nest did not make your list for hole 18.
I forgot about Rat's Nest. It's Rat's Nest.
I was waiting this whole time.
Yeah, no, you're right. Rat's Nest. I don't like it. Lost one of my favorite discs on that hole. Anytime you go to Rat's Nest anyway, I think the reason they call it Rat's Nest is because the rough is so incredibly tight. Like, it's hard to walk through to find your disc if it gets off the fairway. And that hole is so tight coming up the initial turn where you got to turn it over to the right a little bit and then straighten it out so it stays in the fairway that, I could see there's got to be 100 discs in those weeds. Probably not now. In the winter, somebody probably goes and makes bank.
And it's like the same hole as hole 9.
It is pretty
which
similar.
made your list last week.
Yeah. Yeah, rat's nest.
All right, done.
100%.
That's Josh's list. Toss some comments below if you agree or disagree. We'd love to know.
You could even create an account right now.
Yep.
Just to comment and tell me that my opinion is bad.
Just to throw some shade at Josh. Wink, wink. We recommend you do that. All right. Now it's up to me, yeah? Okay. Hole 10.
What do you got?
JC.
Okay.
This is a little dinker. Again, strange angle. It's very similar to 14 at Garfield that you were talking about.
And it's got the Mando, right?
It's got the Mando. You kind of
go long and there's the crit.
Yeah, you kind of reach around and flick something, and
the old reach around.
And then it rolls to the pin or it rolls out of bounds. There's a sidewalk right next to the pin too. Yeah. It's just it was a dumb hole. The design is stupid.
It is. It was another one where it was like, we're running out of room.
Yeah.
Can we throw a hole in here real quick? In this little 120 foot.
And that's kind of, I'm glad you said that because that's kind of going to be the theme on my back nine here.
Fill in holes.
Yeah, like I understand why most of them exist. You're kind of stuck in some situations. At the same time, I still expect you to come up with something a little bit better.
So what do you got for 11?
Hole 11, I went with Shore Acres. And this is nothing about forcing a hole anywhere. I think black's a fine hole. Shore Acres yellow is, it beats me up, so that there's bias there.
Okay.
But the backhand line is weird, and there is no forehand line on the left. I don't care how many people decide to throw it; it's not a line. As a forehand player, I can concretely tell you that is not a real line. However many times you might get being lucky through it, it's not a line.
It's one of my favorite holes.
I throw backhand on that hole.
I do too, with the pig. Just a little force over.
Anyway.
Let it float.
I hate that hole. Again, a lot of bias there. Not necessarily a bad design. Hole 12, Riverside, Goose Poop Island.
Oh, yeah.
It tees off right next to a playground, which is awkward to begin with.
Can I just change my Nightmare 18 to Riverside?
No. But you're throwing down a narrow peninsula filled with geese, angry geese, and goose poop everywhere. If it's not completely flooded already from the pond and the overflow of the Grand River, you can't see it because the weeds are so thick. It's not that long of a hole. I think it's slightly under 300. It's bad. I would toss in the comments if you enjoy this hole because I have a hard time believing anyone does. All right, next. Hole 13, Breakers. I can't disagree with your pick whatsoever. If I didn't already dislike several of the holes on the course, I would call it the worst hole in the course. Because I do think several of those holes are poorly designed. However, this one might be the number one poorly designed hole. It's a bad hole. If you have to throw a trick shot and something like fancy dancy and get a flare skip, that's the only play on the hole to get a viable shot at a birdie. It's really poorly designed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got to say. Josh already described it. Bad hole.
14.
Hole 14, Garfield. Again, I agree with you. Dinky hole, gimmicky. Again, I get it. It's kind of forced space-wise. Got to get you from one spot to the other. But, it's just a dumb shot. So
I suppose especially when it's followed up with such a long hole.
Yeah, I think that might play into it too. But again, spacing wise,
you could make it work.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, 14 Garfield.
15
Ashtamo, which again, Ashtamo is a course that I love. However, 15 I do not enjoy. It's a pretty looking hole visually. You're throwing down a tunnel of pine trees that hooks hard to the right and kind of pushes straight at the end. Slightly, maybe I'm guessing here at the distance, but maybe 275 to 300, somewhere there. So not long. But again, the shot angle that you have to throw to get a birdie look is funky. You can go way high over the top with a spike forehand with something that, like a super hyzer with something with a little bit of flip that'll kind of glide and push and dump down through the pine trees and trickle down for maybe a look. You can throw a turnover backhand that's super precise, might get you a look. But the pine trees on the sides eat everything up, and the angle is just The angle of the hole is weird. Yeah, it's not a hole that fits that course, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I expect better from that course. Ouch.
16.
Hole 16, Johnson Park. And this one,
I haven't played there since 2001. I think they probably redesigned it once or twice.
since you've been there. Down the hill, you're throwing kind of from the top of the dune. Down the hill, there's a big fat tree, huge, wide branches that kind of just sits in the middle of the fairway toward the bottom of the hole's fairway. And the basket is maybe 65 feet past that, slightly left in a little sand area. Steep drop straight behind it, but that's not my issue with the hole. It's that the shot you have to throw is luck based if you're going to get a birdie. So you're either bouncing down through this big tree and it drops you in the sand, or you bounce down through this big tree, it drops you on edge, and you roll all the way down the hill, potentially onto the road and out of bounds. Or you try and get underneath the tree, which is a window of maybe 5 feet high, but you're already throwing downhill and the nose angle just doesn't make sense. You can try and throw all the way around the tree and push too deep. So it's just not a shot that makes a whole lot of sense as far as a natural throw that you have to make.
Okay.
So that's my knock on Johnson. Hole 17. Don't have to talk too much about it. Flip City, really bad hole.
Let's go.
All right. Hole 18. We're staying in the same spot. We're just moving
50
50 feet left. Flip City.
I didn't like that one either.
Talk about a bad way to finish your course.
Yeah.
Especially a course that I have my own thoughts about it, but it's a beautiful course, like land-wise.
And historically, one of the highest rated courses.
Exactly. And it's a destination
world,
course
right?
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And to finish it on those two holes, I hate it. It's a buzzkill is what it is.
It sure was for me.
Yeah, it really sucks because you've played around on a course that's gorgeous, and sure, I might have my thoughts on a couple of the other holes elsewhere, but it's a fun course to play. And it's a destination course, like you said, for a lot of people.
And
so
you have to finish like
you
that.
finish like that on a hole 17, which is poorly designed, doesn't make sense. And then 18, you're just throwing a little chip shot straight down a hill through a row of trees that it's just a luck-based shot. You might get parked for a birdie. You might ace. You might throw a perfect shot and get a tree kick that sends you 90 feet in a spot where you can't birdie anymore.
Yep.
So dumb 2 holes to finish flip. Kind of ruins the course for a lot of people, I would think.
Yeah.
So
I like it. I like your 18, especially the 3 that you agreed with me on.
Yeah, we had a lot of overlap there.
We did. Who'd have thunk it?
A lot of overlap.
We share nightmares. Sometimes.
In different places.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, enough about that. That is our Nightmare 18, preceded by our Dream 18. Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to it. I hope that you didn't agree with everything, because we'd love to know your disagreements or your agreements below in the comments.
Yeah.
We've got a new topic coming for you next week, but we are running low on topics. So please shoot us a message. Drop another suggestion in the comments for us. We'd love to know your thoughts. We'd love to talk about it on the show, and we'd love to shout you out for your suggestion. So
yeah, I like that.
There's that. Anything to add?
No, I think that about sums it up. I do think, like I said, in 6 months or so, we should redo this a little bit. But this was a fun, on the fly, not a lot of prep.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Fun topic. I enjoyed thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun to think about all those holes and think about our local courses.
Hopefully you guys did as well. So that wraps up episode 17. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to tune into Leppy Duels this weekend.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah. We'll see you next week. And until then, keep your head in the game.